Happy Halloween! Do I look like a girl today? Sorry. Alright, so my name is Shay, and this week we are talking about pronoun usages, and the dogs are being crazy. I might have to put them up. Alright, so when I met my boyfriend Gavin, he'd already been out as trans for like 2.5 years or so. So he'd already, for the most part, already socially transitioned, at least to his friends and his family. And, go away! Sorry about that. And he does this really, like, alright, with his family, he doesn't beat him up too much about using the wrong pronouns, because he respects that it's hard for them, it's a hard transition for them to make, because he doesn't want them to feel like they're losing a kid. We live close by, and he's been transitioning slowly, so he's trying to make sure that, they know that it's still the same person that they love in there. So he's kind of letting them adapt to their pronouns at their own pace. When, like, his mom's freaking cool, and when she hangs out with us in social settings, and everybody's saying Gavin this and Gavin that and using the male pronouns, a lot of times she does too, and it's freaking awesome. But then she doesn't always do it when it's just, like, us and her, and she still gets it wrong. But he's letting them do that at their own pace. Now with his friends, with his people that he has two best friends they've been friends since they were like 18, and now they're in their 30s, except for one of them. She's a little bit younger. But anyways, so with his really tight group of friends, I think he expects them to use the correct pronouns, because, they know how important it is to him, and I guess, alright, maybe I'm just projecting, but I think if they're really his friends, they should understand how important and how serious this is, and, do their absolute best to get it right. What's interesting, though, is, like, when I started to meet them all, and they were telling me stories of, mischief from, like, 15 years ago. They would get the pronoun wrong, or they'd use, his birth name, and they'd flinch and then, like, freak out a little bit, and then apologize and be really awkward about it. And Gavin has this take, I don't know if it's unique or not, but pretty much that he won't get mad about them using the, female pronouns or his birth name when it's a story about something that happened 15 years ago, because that's who he was at the time. And I think that's a pretty cool way to approach it, I guess. It makes sense to me, Stupid dogs. I love them. Alright, now, when we got together, he was, like I said, he was already out socially, but he hadn't started taking testosterone yet. So, I nominated myself as his pronoun watchdog, as I called it, as in, whenever we'd meet people, we'd be like, "Hi, I'm Shay, and this is my boyfriend, Gavin, and me and him do this and that, and we go here and we go there," and, kind of remind people of which pronoun he's going by. And then if they messed it up, as it happens from time to time, I just casually throw it back into the conversation that he does such and such and such things. And I mean, it felt a little silly, but at the same time, Gavin's really mellow and, doesn't want to beat people up about it, so I wanted to, I guess, just not be mad about it, just casual, loud reminders. And I don't know, whenever we have friends that are freshly out of the trans closet too, I always kind of do that for them. And I always suggest that they have, somebody strong-minded that they pick to do that, so, the guy doesn't look like an asshole. Like, I'm okay with being an asshole on his behalf. Now, for myself in remembering the pronouns, that was a little challenging. When we met, he was already Gavin, so I knew what that was, but I'd only ever actually met one other trans guy before meeting Gavin, and I was really drunk at the time, so I had absolutely no idea what he said, other than I remember apologizing for using female pronouns, and then I kept drunkenly talking about whatever. And then when Gavin and I met, he told me he was trans during our very first conversation, but I still had absolutely no idea what that meant. So once we started to spend a little bit more time socially as friends, and then eventually start dating, I started doing research to try and understand what he was talking about, and was this kid crazy, or is he just really, really cute? So for me, I would always speak really slowly, and it's hard because I tend to, my mind goes about a mile a minute, and I'm already thinking about things I'm going to say in conversations like 10 minutes down the road. So it was a bit of a challenge, but I just talked slowly, and made sure I was consistent, you know. I would use male pronouns when Gavin wasn't around, and talking about him to other people just to remind myself, and remind myself, and remind myself, and remind myself. And I just felt so fucking bad whenever I messed it up. And I did from time to time. But he was always really nice about it, and I am still grateful, you know, because I felt like a jackass, because I guess I felt like, as his girlfriend, I was his first line of defense, and if I couldn't get it right, then nobody else was going to get it right, and so therefore I had to, you know. So that was kind of a little bit, I don't know if stressful is the right word, but I beat myself up about it a lot. And I actually remember the very last time I misgendered him, and it was, so we were going to the park, and we were goofing around in my room, and I found this cowboy hat from somewhere, and so I was, you know, like, being silly, and I, like, spun around and said, "Yes, ma'am," and then remembered that I wasn't supposed to say ma'am, and I just, fucking A. I felt so bad, and, like, with him, he, you know, he's just brush it off and keep going, but I would be busy beating myself up for, like, 20, 30, 40 more minutes. So with him, he just, I don't know, if you ever meet us in public and you get it wrong, just a quiet apology and continue, and, you know, do your best to make it right next time. That's kind of how his approach is. One thing that I really, really love about Gavin is that he has kind of, he uses his life as a teaching tool, and that's not always easy, you know, because he's really, really, really open with his trans status in his life, and all the very personal things that he goes through, and he's willing to talk about it with pretty much anyone. He'll talk to him about being trans and what it's like and what it means for him. And, you know, people do ask those awkward questions. Have you had the surgery? You know, what are you going to do about blah, 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 blah? And he just calmly answers and keeps going. Because we live in a really small town, and we live in a pretty gender-normative area. And so Gavin and I are a little strange and out of the ordinary. So we kind of I learned it from him, but we kind of act as like ambassadors almost to teach people about gender and being different and being unique and how awesome it can be. Because he has this theory, like, say the first time you ever met a cop, they were really, really mean to you, and they cussed you out and they beat you up and they were just awful. You probably never ever want to be around one again, right? So if Gavin is the first trans guy you've ever met, he wants it to be a good experience. He wants to be able to teach you things nicely and gently and peacefully. And his theory is that way, the next time you meet a trans person, hopefully you'll be a little nicer to them than you might be just, you know, for your first experience. But he has this theory that if, like, I don't know, if somebody misgenders him, he's not going to go beat him up about it because, you know, they might not know, they might not have ever read anything about it or heard anything about it, so he doesn't feel like it's okay to just beat him up because they made a mistake. And I respect that a lot, and so I've kind of adopted that for myself. Like, last week's video, we were talking about me being genderqueer, and when he posted the link on his Facebook page, you know, somebody commented saying that was the first time they'd ever heard the word, and they had to Google it and look it up, and I don't know, you know, if we are the first time, if we are your first example of people that are not heteronormative and gender blenders and whatever other term you want to use, but if we're your first, then we want it to be as good of an experience as possible, if that makes sense. Alright, I think that's everything I was going to talk about today. Alright, I know the channel's been a little on the quiet side lately, and we're really sorry about that. We're in the middle of shifting around and adding some people, and, you know, some people they're a little bit busy, and so we're making some changes. But if you or your girlfriend or your boyfriend are interested in being on the channel, you should shoot me a message. Alright, have a very, very good Halloween. My favorite candy is a Heath bar, so if you wanted to send me some, that'd be cool. But be safe tonight, enjoy yourself. and I will see you guys next week. Okay, bye.